Ed Stone?
Good evening.
Hi.
The resource allocation that we're really talking about throughout this enrollment process has to do with allocating teachers and students. And so as I've mentioned to you before, it's the inflexibility of the student-teacher ratio that causes the unequal growth in our district to move teacher resources across the river. So there are two ways in principle that one could work to equalize those things. One is that we could come up with a new set of boundaries and have a bunch of data and try to do that well to make sure that those things came out equally. And the other thing that we often do in our society when we have resources is we let a free market type thing operate to allow the resources to flow according to people's choice. So what I sense from many in the community is they feel, and I feel this too, that something is being pushed upon us instead of us being able to have a choice of what to do. I think on both sides of this issue, that's what people are commenting on. So I just want to sensitize you to one thing, and then I'm going to make two specific suggestions that I've suggested before. A few times in the last few weeks, I've heard the statement made, we need to speak to the people, the affected families is the phrase that's been used. And I think that's interesting because the implication with that phrase is that the families that are affected are the ones whose children are moving and not the ones whose teachers are moving. They're both affected, but the reality is, of course, one's children are a much more personal thing than one's teacher by 20-fold. So when we have this ratio, and one part of the ratio is highly personal, and the other one is one step removed from personal because it's just our teacher, that sort of skews the ability to talk about it, because one group says things like, well, don't move my kid, and I understand that. Nobody wants their child being affected by something. But I think that people on the other side of the river also have a reason to not want the teachers in their school draining away 7% this year alone from City High. So we hear, and we heard 5 years ago, we should think about this long and hard, right? We were talking about this 5 years ago, and we talked about the need for delay so that we could do it right. And then we talked about it 3 years ago, and we talked about the need for delay so we could do it right. And I understand that. We also heard tonight several comments about how we need to get after it because we got a serious problem. So I guess what I'm starting to imagine as we hear this discussion is that we need some sort of transition to an ultimate plan. I agree with all of the people that said things like we need a comprehensive vision for this community where we have equality and parity and all that. I think we all want that for our community. How do we get there? One thing I think we could do is we could reinstate the full all new students to City High policy. At the moment, we have 2 grades of new students going to City High. And so it's not like we're totally allergic to that concept. So why don't we consider just going and implementing the full policy to get us some immediate short-term relief? That's why the policy was suggested a few years ago. It is not a great policy. It has lots of stuff wrong with it, but so do all these other things we're talking about, okay? And I think we should seriously consider an all new students to City High thing as a short-term transition while we're thinking about these other long-term things. And the other thing I want you to seriously consider is some element of market force, meaning do something to stabilize the faculty at City High, thereby allowing parents to make their own choice about whether they want to take advantage of smaller class sizes at City High that would result from stabilizing the faculty over there, or whether they want to choose to stay, in School A or School B. Not as the long-term plan. The long-term plan, I believe, is what has been suggested here, which is a long-term, comprehensive, make it all, get it fixed, et cetera. But what are we going to do between now and then? What are we going to do in 2010 when we run out? What is the plan for that? I want to hear a plan for that. So in summary, I'd suggest, A, when you talk about affected families, I want you to consider the idea that a family that's losing its teachers is also affected, albeit not as personally as a child that's moving to a new district. I want you to seriously consider all new students to City High for a period, which would get another 60 kids or something immediately. Not perfect, but it would get us something. And then I'd like you to consider some element of stabilizing the faculty at City High as we consider all this stuff, so that we don't have a continued hemorrhage of teachers. And then we have an open enrollment policy where people from the West can go to the East. We don't have the ability for people from the East to go to the West. So if somebody on my street wants to go to West High, no can do. My kids go to a school with the teachers draining out of it. No choice. No choice. And I'm suggesting creating a situation in which people have the choice of the geographic proximity or class size, because that's basically what we're talking about. This is the yin and yang of this problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Jeremy Klubeck. Hi, I'm sorry, Jeremy, I can't totally read your name. Klubeck. Hi, how are you? Welcome again.